Welcome to the Dark Underbelly. We previously covered the case of Alexis Von Yates.
A stepmom is caught in the act of molesting her stepson while they both were smoking weed while watching the movie Terrifier 2. The boy's father walked in on the abuse, threatened the child, and the woman claimed it was the boy who was assaulting her.
The boy's dad, his biological father, walked in on the abuse, witnessed everything, and instead of protecting his son, instead of standing up for his son, and instead of attacking the boy's predator, he reacted completely opposite. He listened to his wife's lies, claiming that it was the boy who was assaulting her. He threatened his own son. He kicked the boy out of the house. Then he drove him, stopped to get a six-pack of beer, and dropped him off at his grandparents' house. Not the type of father that we're used to seeing in the media, projected by society, that dads protect their children. It's actually quite opposite. And then we see, as the case unfolds, a call comes in to CPS days later with a report of abuse. CPS investigators open a file, show up to the father's house, their house, to investigate. And a CPS investigator speaks with the boy's dad over the phone, where he lies outright about witnessing anything. He says he never saw anything. And he says that his boy, his son, has a history of lying. That's the type of fathers that we've come to learn here at the Dark Underbelly. That's the kind of examples that we've seen. And then we showed you statements from Alexis Von Yates' former friend, who revealed everything about the abuse, about how Alexis Von Yates admitted to it and then said, "That boy's trying to ruin my life," after she assaulted him. And then finally the father tells the truth. Alexis Von Yates is charged with sexual assault of a child. And the case, and we attended the sentencing. She was arrested in 2024. She pled guilty in August of 2025. And just the other day, she was sentenced to prison as part of a plea agreement. She was given 2 years in state prison, followed by 2 years of community control or house arrest, and then 10 years sex offender probation. But what was so fascinating was what I witnessed in the courtroom of the boy laying out by Zoom, how his life was devastated, that he's not doing great. He's doing okay, trying to recover, but he's not doing great. And the boy's biological mother had the most powerful statements. She called Alexis Von Yates an incestuous pedophile. Words that we very rarely see applied to women. But what was most interesting of all was what the boy's mother said about the dad. Since this incident and the arrest, after the boy's dad lied for his predator wife, after he called his own son a liar, after literally witnessing the abuse himself, claiming that the boy made it all up and had a history of lying, the good old tough American dad hasn't talked to his son since, and they have no relationship. That's the type of parents that we come across here at the Dark Underbelly. That's the kind of fathers that we see here. It's very rare to find a father being a man From Marion County, Florida, this is the Dark Underbelly, the sentencing of Alexis Von Yates.
Update for you on a former nurse who's accused of raping her stepson. So this woman was sentenced this morning. The case brought to a close. Last month, Alexis Von Yates pleaded no contest to a lesser charge of lewd and lascivious battery. Now, she was initially charged with sexual battery on a person 12 to 18 years of age by a person in familial custody. Let's take a listen to the judge handing down her sentence.
We're headed to the sentencing for Alexis Von Yates. She was the stepmom. What is it with stepmoms in Marion County? What is it with Marion County? She was the stepmom in Marion County, Florida, that sexually abused her 15-year-old stepson while the boy's biological dad walked in on it and didn't call 911, didn't protect his son, didn't defend his son, but he lied repeatedly. Again, what have we seen from fathers throughout time? We haven't seen the dads that supposedly the media tells us protect their kids. No, he walks in on his wife sexually abusing his 15-year-old son, and the coward blames his kid, gets drunk, the kid gets thrown out of the house, and then CPS and investigators call him days later to find out what happened. He didn't call 911, no. The boy's father cowers down, bitches down. CPS calls him, detectives call him and say, hey, we heard something happened, because the boy's biological mom found out. Thank God we have some strong people in this world, some caring parents. The boy's mom calls 911, calls Marion County. Marion County officials start investigating. CPS gets involved, and they call the dad and say, hey, what happened? Oh, nothing happened. He calls his son a liar. He says he has a history of lying. Yeah, the father of this boy who witnessed his son being sexually assaulted and now is being told, asked by investigators, what happened? Tell us what happened. You saw it. You witnessed it. He says, nothing happened. My son's a liar. And then finally, weeks later, the weak, pathetic dad is shamed into telling the truth. I witnessed my wife sexually abusing my son, and I'm finally ready to tell the truth. That's the story of Alexis Von Yates. She lied. She tried to initially tell when the heat of the moment, when dad walks in the heat of the moment, she lies to her husband and says the boy was sexually assaulting her, that she didn't want it, that it was sexual assault by the boy. In the heat of the moment, she claimed that. So this boy did what he was supposed to. He kept his mouth shut, but the dad witnessed it. The dad saw it. And yet he still called his son a liar. These are the types of issues that we're going to be studying here at the Dark Underbelly. At 7 a.m., we're heading to the Marion County Courthouse for sentencing for Alexis Von Yates.
You'll be adjudicated guilty and sentenced to 2 years in the Department of Corrections. What is your credit for time served? I believe it's 2 days. Right, let's check. Did you stay over past midnight?
Yes, sir.
It's probably 2 days. We'll check. So 2 years Department of Corrections, followed by 2 years of community control, followed by 10 years sex offender probation, with all standard conditions outlined in Florida Statute 948.30 and the following special conditions. With sex offender community control work. You'll pay the following $150 fine plus court costs, $150 in costs of prosecution to the state attorney's office, $151 to the rape crisis trust fund, $151 to the child advocacy trust fund. You must complete 200 hours of community service at Marion County Solid Waste rate of at least 16 hours per month. Those must be completed within the first 2 years of supervision. You'll have no contact. And that is going to be not only while on probation, but also as a term of while you're in prison, you can have no contact with him. Let me statute up real quick.
Judge, I apologize. This plea was made before the court wanted me to add that statute, but I thought it was.
So the Florida Statute 921.244, you shall have no contact with indirectly, including through a third person for the duration of your sentence imposed. Understand, ma'am, that if you were to have contact with him during your prison sentence in violation of that statute, any sentence that you receive would have to, by law, be run consecutively to your Department of Corrections sentence.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, Ms. Yates, it's in the plea agreement, but it's not part of the sentence. You will be deemed a sexual offender.
Sentencing is now over. Alexis Von Yates sentenced to 2 years in the Department of Corrections, followed by 2 years of community control and 10 years sex offender probation. This was a plea agreement that her attorney and state prosecutors here in Marion County came to have her sentenced to prison. It's very rare to see a female predator sentenced to prison. This 15-year-old victim who was testifying here by Zoom, who gave his impact statement, and far from the glamour, far from the glitz and the glamour that's portrayed by a cultural pedophile society, this boy did not tell you that he was legendary. This boy did not go around with high fives. This boy did not say how positive the sexual abuse was on his life. In fact, it was the exact opposite. The child today said that his life was devastated, and he is still picking up the pieces from what happened to him and the fallout from this case in which his stepmom treated him horrifically over years, only to flip and sexually abuse him. His dad was unsupporting in the very beginning, and the entire family structure was completely divided, in many of whom protected, shielded, and tried to cover for Alexis Von Yates. And this victim stood against everyone in the family, stood against the society telling him to enjoy it, stood against an entire pedophilic culture that said that he's gay if he says anything, that he's a faggot. No, he stood against all of that and gave a powerful summary and a devastating portrayal of what truly happens if you're here, like we are, the dark underbelly, exploring the epidemic of female pedophiles and predators. It's not glamorous, it's not positive, it's not legendary. No, these kids' lives are being devastated by people that are preying on them. She will spend the next 2 years in the Florida Department of Correction, followed by probation for 10 years. Dark Underbelly, we're in Marion County, Florida, the sentencing of Alexis Von Yates.